Hello and welcome to Meet Your Inspiration podcast with Meri and Rich. Here we're talking about inspiration, motivation and empowerment. Our guests are ordinary people who became extraordinary, and we're sharing their stories. We want to empower you to become the person you want to be and to go beyond your dreams.
This evening we've got a lovely Lois who's with us this evening. She's not a local lady, but we found her on LinkedIn, and what a great find she is. She's actually working now as a virtual PA, which is quite an interesting role, interesting job, but we'd really like to share her story and how she got to where she is. So welcome, Lois. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hello. Tonight it's good. We will show the power of LinkedIn and the cool chat we had before we start. We don't even know how we get connected, but the important is that we are here now. Do you want to tell us a few things about you? Where are you based? What are you doing at the moment? And then we're going to take you back in the time.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'll tell you where we are right now. So I live in Rochdale, which is just outside of Manchester, for those of you that don't know. I am the owner of LBS Virtual Services, which is a virtual assistant agency, and recently have diversified into helping women with strategy as well, and a little bit of coaching in there. So lots of big things happening in the business as we speak, and over the next sort of 6 to 12 months as well. It's just going to continue to grow. I am also a mum of 2. I home educate my eldest, who is 12. My youngest is 8. A wife of 1, a friend to many, and a massive Disney nerd.
Wow. There's a full-on thing.
Oh my gosh, we're going to talk a lot. Things we have to cover. Obviously, Meet Your Inspiration podcast. We are looking to find a bit more about your story, how your journey developed after your secondary school, and bring you to the moment now. So, yeah, what was your journey?
We're digging back some way to go to after secondary school, isn't it? That feels like a long and distant memory now. I was always one who I just didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. Well, I mean, I did for a little while. I wanted to be a pop star. That was like absolutely definite. I remember going to my careers advisor and, you know, they sit there as they were back in the day, quite stuffed shirt and very formal. What is it you'd like to do? I was like, as you are cocky as a teenager, I'm going to be a pop star. I remember them saying, let's go a little bit more realistic than that. And I was like, no, I am going to be a pop star. And if you don't want to help me, then there's no point me being here.
And did you sing?
I did sing. I did sing.
All right then.
Yeah. So we actually were in a little girl band when I was at school, and just after I left school as well. And considering we did it all off our own back, we did really well with it. We did our own schools tour. We did an under-18s nightclub tour as well. And we ran a fan club from my mum's kitchen. We literally used to go and get little postcards printed out. We'd get the kids to fill it in with the details. We'd take them home and we'd send them like little membership cards directly from my mum's house. So,
wow.
Yeah, we took it really seriously. And my dad hired a van with blacked out windows and dressed up all suited and booted to look like our tour manager and drove us around all these venues. So yeah, it was a really good time.
Awesome.
Well, you were far more on the journey than most people. I mean, you didn't just say you wanted to be it, you actually lived it out, which is something completely different. At least you had a proper go at it, which is really good.
Yeah, we did.
If only TikTok was there around there, you'd be a superstar.
You would be a pop star.
Absolutely. It wasn't quite as easy to get your name out there then, but we gave it a good crack of the whip at least. So, yeah. Anyway, that dream sadly came to an end when one member of the trio didn't want to take it any further. And we were actually just starting to get our foot in the door with some record labels and things.
Wow.
But we were so young. And when one wobbled, we all wobbled and just didn't feel confident enough to take it forward. I did do a little bit of pub singing after that until kind of my mid-20s. But that was alongside a normal job. I did everything. In the beginning, I worked in Greg's, Adam's Children's Wear, the Disney Store, and eventually...
Hence the Disney link as well.
Hence the Disney link, wow, yes.
That was the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, like every kid, I love Disney, but then working for them and seeing, like, I'm a big sucker for good customer service, and that's something that Disney is massive on. I really credit a lot of how I am with clients today to them because they train you impeccably to be good with customers. And that's sort of stayed with me throughout. I then went to work for the Royal Bank of Scotland, and that was my entry into kind of banking and finance. And I stayed there, not at RBS, but in that world for many, many years. Became an accidental PA, I always say, twice over. Didn't actually go in as a PA, but in both instances, their actual PAs went on maternity leave and then never came back. So I just ended up accidentally being the PA twice over in two different.
So was that to a quite high level manager, I guess, at that point?
It was, PA, yeah. It was, yeah. It was the overall director both times over. Yeah, I loved doing that, and then I got pregnant. And I did what a lot of women do and decided that I wanted to scale back my career to look after my son. I actually was a single mum, not when it first happened, but unfortunately that's how it panned out by the time he arrived. And so, it seemed important that I was more local because I was working in Manchester, and it was long days with the commute on either side of the day, and I just decided I needed to be closer to home. So I took a job as a doctor's receptionist, which was challenging. It was all right. It wasn't me.
So you had patience, but you also needed patience.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It didn't really feel like me, but it was the right fit for my life at the time. I'm focusing very much on career, but I'm more than happy to talk about other things as well. I'm just trying to stay on track, really. Thereafter, my dad became really poorly. In that window, I'd met my husband and we got engaged. We're living together and everything. And I became pregnant when my son was 3 with our daughter, at the same time as my dad was really, really poorly, and I was caring for him. It was a really difficult situation. I was still trying to work part-time, care for him, very, very heavily pregnant.
Was he local? Was he local at the time as well?
Ish. He was still northwest based, but a good half an hour's drive away. Yeah. So obviously navigating, pregnancy, a young child, a job, a still relatively new relationship really as well with my husband. It was a really, really tough time. And he actually was taken into hospital and was at the same hospital I ended up being at to have my daughter.
Oh, wow.
At the same time, which in a way was really lovely because the staff were commendable and they made sure that as soon as she was born, within like the hour, they'd wheeled my dad up to see me, and the next day they made sure they took me down to him, and so that was a really special time. Sadly, his needs just increased after that hospital visit, and he was temporarily in respite care, but we were very close, so I didn't just sort of put him in a home and forget about him. I was still very much caring for him, which led to me really missing the first 9-10 months of my daughter's life. She was always with me, but in the care of my husband or my mum because I was busy with my dad. That obviously led to an awful lot of guilt, a lot of mum guilt. I have made my peace with that since, thinking that my dad was very well aware of what was going on, and I know he would have always been grateful for that time that we had together. She's none the wiser, until she gets older and listens to something like this, she's none the wiser of what happened. So I think as painful as it was the right choice.
It's amazing because that's a subject that comes up a lot with ladies, isn't it? About having guilt about different situations and sort of like, did they spend enough time with their children? Have they spent enough time? Did they get the balance right? And like today, I think, there's so much pressure on everybody, but at the same time, I think a lot of ladies do spend a lot of time with their children, and they probably don't realise as much time. And I think when we look back, probably particularly, I think at my generation, I always think back really fondly to what my mum used to do for us, and she really cared for us. But like at the time, my mum was like a mobile hairdresser, and she used to run around everywhere in a car. She had a little Mini with a little hairdryer in the car. Me and my sister could hardly sit in the back because of the hairdryer, and it was amazing. But she would have probably looked back and think like how difficult and how challenging that would have been, because she probably thought, well, she didn't do enough. But we always have really fond memories. So I think a lot of mums probably have that feeling. But actually, from a children point of view, when you look back, you think, wow, what a wonderful person mum was, and it's a fact.
Yeah, well, that's a lovely piece of reassurance. Thank you for that. And yeah, the same from my own perspective. My mum, she worked 3 jobs to keep things afloat. My mum and dad divorced when I was 9. And yeah, she really worked very, very hard to keep things afloat. And I know she carried guilt for that for many, many years. But all I've got is admiration and gratitude for everything that she did for me. So where were we in that journey? Oh, yes, my dad. So then he passed away. I got married shortly after, and somewhere in that time frame, I had started a very strange self-employed role. This is where I can't name names because I'll get in trouble, but it was one of those companies that you are self-employed for their benefit rather than yours. Okay. So they said they were paying you a certain amount, but actually the amount that you were expected to do for free, or the bare minimum workload you had to do, was just impossible to do within the hours that they were paying you for. But it worked well because I could work from home. I could choose my own hours. And again, that I was then trying to make up for lost time with my daughter. So it was good to fit around that and childcare hours and all that kind of thing. But I sat back after a little while and worked out that I was earning £7 an hour. And this was only 3 years ago. So that's, that was like a way, way, way below where it should have been.
It's not enough to live on, let alone pay for anything, really. No luxuries or nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were, and this is quite an important part of my story, I guess. I had moved at some point in this journey. I'd met my husband, but we weren't at serious stage. And I had moved into a council flat with my son. And don't get me wrong, it was exactly what we needed at the time. Like, we needed a little place to live that didn't cost me very much to live there. I looked after it. I had it absolutely beautiful. But it was very much made for a single parent and their child. Just because of how things went with my dad being ill, and then my work not paying very well. My husband just wasn't in a well-paid job anyway. We ended up stuck there, and we ended up being there when we got married, and we ended up there with our second child. And you can imagine this tiny, tiny space. Money was getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So we were in that position where things needed replacing and they weren't being replaced. So we were just making do with everything. I was in a very, very dark place. Like, I was, I'd lost my dad. I was still struggling with that. I was balancing with that guilt of motherhood. I was looking at the house around me not being big enough, thinking about the fact my kids had no outdoor space, staring into this black hole of, I've got no money. I don't know how I'm going to make more money. How are we ever going to get better here? How are we going to get a better life than this? Yeah, it wasn't a good time at all. It was a really, really very difficult and dark time. And then my husband was made redundant. Now
that makes life really, really difficult because you're on the edge already, and you're going to be even more on the edge.
Yeah, but guess what we did? We booked a holiday to Disney with the redundancy money.
Oh, okay. Well, that would give you a lift of the
Sometimes you
spirit.
need a bit light in the
You do.
dark days.
That was where the decision came from. That was literally like, right, we have lived these dark days for so long. We just need something to lift our spirits. And when I say me and my husband literally didn't, apart from the initial dating days, we didn't seem to get a moment of light relief. The whole time we'd been together had just been very serious and a run of a lot of very, very difficult things. So we booked this holiday and off we went. But of course, when we were there, I was then flooded with guilt. What could we have done with this money? We could have maybe put it down as a deposit on a new house. We could have done up the flat. All of these different things. But actually, I'm so grateful that it happened because it was on that holiday that I decided to start the business that I've got now.
Good.
It was a little moment. We were, as I say, these thoughts had been hounding me the whole holiday, really thinking about what we should have done with that money and how we're going to get out of this position, blah, blah, blah. I should also add, I was actually running a bath bomb business as well from the flat kitchen, which was on paper doing fairly well. Like, things were selling quite well, but it meant going to craft fairs at weekends. I was making
You were making them.
I was making them. Yeah, I was literally making. So I was up at like 1, 2 a.m. making these bath bombs, and it was only just making enough money I was selling a lot, but unless you can buy in bulk for a business like that, you can't really make any serious money because trends are always changing, new scents, new colours, new designs are always coming out. So it's just constant expense. And I was exhausted. So I was walking through Disney one day and I just looked down at the floor and there was a quarter on the floor. So I bent down, I picked it up, and I just held it. I don't know what struck me, but I just held it. And I said, this will not be the last time I bring my babies to Disney. And next time I will have paid for it myself. And instantly, I put a post out on Facebook closing down my bath bomb business and everything must go sale. My best friend called me within the hour. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you closing your business? I said, I can't carry on like this. I'm exhausted. I'm frustrated. I need better from life than this. This was September 2022. I said, you mark my words, by this time next year, I will have quit my real job as well. So she said, what are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. She said, do you know what a virtual assistant is? I said, no. Let me send you some links, she said. So she sent me these links to a lady called Catherine Gladwin, who became my mentor later down the line. And I spent the rest of the holiday binge watching these videos, came home, set up my business, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely awesome.
So obviously, one more example that sometimes the life is just taking you in the right direction, even we don't think so, or we don't know how something will happen.
Yeah.
Maybe if you haven't been to that trip to Disneyland, and this idea would never come. But that's awesome. Honestly, I love the idea. But is the business, when you set it up, obviously to be, I know that nowadays it's becoming quite popular. I know a few virtual assistants now, and I'm asking them, how about, is it too much on the market? And all of them are telling me that people more and more are getting interest in this kind of business. How are you finding it? And for obviously, since you set up, just take us how easy it was to set up your name, business, to find clients and to grow, because as I assume now you're not just working for yourself, you've got like a group, or you've got people working with you. I just explain to us.
Yes, I have. So obviously it was just me when I started, and the actual setup was relatively easy. Like, you start with skills that you already have, so it's not like you're needing to learn a great deal. You know, you can hit the ground running. And I started as I don't like to use the word basic because I don't want to undersell what anybody does, but kind of exactly what you would imagine a VA being, someone that helps with inboxes and calendars and a little bit of electronic filing, that kind of thing, a fairly basic range of services. And I landed my first client really quickly, and I was like, bingo, this is going to be so easy. Spoiler, it wasn't easy.
It never is.
No, it never is. That client lasted, I think, all of about 6 weeks before it just fell apart. Just not the right fit for me. I'm not going to speak ill of anybody, but just not the right fit for me at all. It then took me about 4 months to land another client, and I'm really impatient, or I used to be. I'm getting a lot better now, but I used to want everything yesterday. So for me, 4 months was like pulling teeth. I was like, why is this not happening? I've made such a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. And it was Catherine, the lady I mentioned that was my mentor. She, unbeknownst to her, I mean, she knew I was wobbling, but she didn't say it for this reason. She said, I've seen something special in you, and you're going to go places. And just thinking of the thousands of VAs that she has mentored, I thought that's got to mean something. Like, for her to say that must mean something. And she knows now because I've told her, but at the time she didn't know that was the only thing that kept me going, because I was that close to just giving up. So I then landed my next client, and quite quickly after that, Wendy Gannon, I don't know if you both know her, photographer.
Yes.
No, the name, yeah.
We've seen lots about you two that work
Yeah.
together.
We had started our businesses at around the same time, so we'd kind of been watching each other quietly, find our feet and establish. Wendy obviously has a huge personality, and she was so good at marketing, which wasn't a natural skill for me. That's something I've learned as I've gone on. So she'd kind of taken off quite well on LinkedIn, and I was still quite quiet on there at the time, but we'd been talking to each other, and she came to me and just said, just feeling a little bit lost, like I could just do with someone to sound off with. I said, well, actually, I've just been thinking about offering power hours. Do you want to be my first power hour client? So she was. We hit it off amazingly well, and she was applying for a government access to work grant at the time. She landed it fairly quickly afterwards with a huge amount of hours, because this was in the access to work heyday when they were just like, yeah, have all the hours. And so once she landed, I then had no option but to bring on a team, because I couldn't do all the hours myself. It was too many for me. And I can't really thank her enough, because she was a big voice on LinkedIn. Her just talking about me saw my business skyrocket. I couldn't even tell you the time frame after that, but it was quick. Once it gained traction, it was quick, and it just
That's amazing, isn't it? It goes to show the power. I mean, when you've got a network and around you, and someone who's got a bit of profile about them, and they're able to share a recommendation, and those recommendations, they stand for so much. Because at the end of the day, most people are going, random pick somebody up, and then it doesn't really work. But like when you've got someone who they know they can trust, and they've got really find a way, then that's the way to really, like you say, skyrocket, and all of a sudden everything just takes off because they trust you, and that's the most important thing.
But there is something in you as well. I don't know if that was always you, but honestly, you are so much positive energy and smiling and chatting, and I don't know, this is kind of personality I think as well attract the people, because you're not this. I mean, I know people are different. I meeting you now, when I'm talking to you now for first time, and honestly there is something in your personality which as well is, obviously Wendy was very right, and your mentor as well, there is something there, and keep it, although you've been through really difficulties. I don't know, have you been like that all your life?
Yeah. Delusionally happy, I think one might call it.
Well, that's perfect. I'm sure people are getting, how is the word? They get it from you, and it
spreads the energy, doesn't it?
Yeah, spreads the energy.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a nice compliment. And I do thankfully get people giving me that feedback all the time, which is lovely. But I was definitely one of those that went on LinkedIn and sort of tried to put myself in the corporate box. I didn't really know how LinkedIn worked. I just thought it was for job hunting. I didn't think there was this whole demographic of brilliant people out there being vivacious and being themselves. And so I look back on my first profile picture now, and I laugh every time I see it, because I had a grey polo neck on. Nothing wrong with this, by the way, it's just not me. A grey polo neck, very like subdued makeup, hair back in a little bun, and I'm kind of like, side profile, very just a little wry smile, and it makes me laugh whenever I look at it now, because now I have pictures of me in a floor length tutu twirling around, and just being fully
bright
myself.
Colors, absolutely.
Yeah. But it was Wendy and her world, and the other people that have then become part of my world, that really gave me the courage to be myself, because they held up a mirror. I was like, I am like these women, and these women are being themselves. So I can as well. I can be myself. And I think combined with Wendy's word of mouth, and then me finding my own power and not being as scared to step into who I am and show it fully on LinkedIn, it was like the winning formula, really.
So do you post quite a lot? Do you post quite a lot now on LinkedIn, and sort of sharing what you're doing as well, and sort of stories and backgrounds?
Yes, I do. I try. Well, I'd be lying if I said I do 5 days a week. I aim for 5 days a week, but there's usually some kind of parenting crisis on at least one of those. So it's maybe like 3 or 4 times a week. But yeah, pretty consistently I do. And thankfully, I'm getting quite well recognised on there now, which... It's so funny. I'll never get over.
It's not always about, obviously, virtual assistant and this kind of job. You very often talk and stand behind topics which are about women, mostly, I would say.
Yes.
Is that something? And is that something that you care a lot and you want to obviously voice as well about it? And is this the reason that you get to the coaching?
Yes. So again, this was something I've discovered about myself since the business has taken off. I would have always just called myself a girl's girl. Like I love being with women. I love the power of collaborating with other females. I've always been that one that if you see a girl when you're out and about, when you're young, you're in a club or whatever, and there's a lot of kind of bitchiness, but I would always be the one who's like, you look so beautiful, or I love your shoes, or your jacket's great, or I've always been that person. I didn't realise how deep that was, but again, I was suddenly introduced to this world. And then you start to see the stories of these women. So these are the women that I'm looking at going, oh my God, you're amazing. I want to be where you are. And then you meet them, and then you hear their stories, and you hear how they've been oppressed and belittled and bullied and, that really struck something in me, and I was like, this needs a voice. Anyone with a platform that cares about this needs to be speaking about it. So yes, that's why I'm passionate and why I speak about that side of things, particularly as part of Wendy's Female 5 Million. She invited me to speak about male to female abuse. That was very raw for me to share my story and also to listen to others as well. So that was another big decider on me speaking up about these issues. And yes, for the coaching side, again, seeing what women go through, not in that way necessarily, but just internally what they go through behind the scenes. Again, these women that on the surface of it all, absolute powerhouse women doing all of the things we would all aspire to do, but they have this really negative internal dialogue just through years of being conditioned that way. And I'm terrible for having my own really, really negative internal dialogue, but I'm great at giving other people a really, really good, powerful internal dialogue. So that's where the kind of coaching arm has come in.
But there's a subtle change, isn't there, to today in life in terms of like this. I mean, we're all like men and women. We're trying to share responsibilities, and we're doing a lot of things. Whereas historically, years ago, it was completely very, the ladies were very subdued in terms of what they could do or what they couldn't do. And it was very frowned upon if like women wanted to sort of go into a certain position. Whereas today the opportunities are so much easier. I still think, to be fair, ladies are so much better at multitasking than us men. I think
there is no
we have a go
on this topic.
We do. I'm going to, as the outnumbered one here, I'm going to say we do try, but we're not always that good.
I do agree to a stage with you, Richard, because I think, yes, maybe on the paper and etc., we do have more opportunities, but I think there is a long way still to go.
There is a long way to go,
when it comes the moment to the right decision, so just look around and see how many women you will see in CEO positions or in the senior teams. They are still minority.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or in different professions, I don't know. And I think it's all coming again to the chat earlier because, life is changing, but we as women, and when I'm saying we as well, I'm looking around me. I've got a son around your son's age. You can see that, women need to juggle with almost everything. And sometimes it's becoming difficult. And we all got these negative talks, but then it comes some people that will come and show you and help you, and you just need to trust to the right people, I assume, to help you. Talking about coaches, we've got, thanks to LinkedIn, I've noticed that we've got a common friend.
Yes.
How was the queen of the heart-led leadership? Rebecca Shannon. How you managed to meet Rebecca from South and Lois from Manchester area?
So, and she won't mind me telling this story because I told her literally to her face the first time that I met her. I didn't really believe in coaches. I just thought it was the most wishy-washy profession. I was just like, who needs somebody to tell them how to do things? Like, that's just ridiculous. That is genuinely what I used to think.
+1 before I met Rebecca. She changed my perspective.
Exactly this. Yeah, exactly the same. And I think, in fairness, a little bit like virtual assistants, not all are made equal. And so very loosely going back to your question earlier about is the market saturated, I think this applies to both virtual assistants and coaches. There's a lot out there that aren't really worth the salt, and that can make it look as though the market for both of those professions is saturated. But I think anyone that's doing their due diligence will see that the pool of solid ones is lesser, and there's plenty of work for all of them. But to answer your question, Wendy, again, she keeps coming up. Wendy and another good friend and client of mine, Samantha Harmon, were putting on an event in Southampton. And I'd never been to a networking event before. And I couldn't say no. Like, I loved them both. So I was like, sure, let's do it. We'll go. This was last summer. And Rebecca was there. And I remember it was in this really posh hotel. And it's taken me a really long time to get over this whole whatever story it is I tell myself about people like me don't belong in certain places. So rewind a year, I was still very much in that, ooh, should I be here kind of territory. Walked into this posh hotel. I was like, oh my God, my shoes are really cheap and my dress is really cheap and I don't look like these other women. And Rebecca stepped out of the lift looking like an absolute vision in pink with the most spectacular earrings I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, wow, who's that? I didn't actually have time to find out who that was because it was all very fast paced. And then as luck would have it, for the dinner, we were sat next to each other.
Oh, amazing.
And so we got talking and she gave me basically like a 3-hour coaching session, just sat there at the table, and she was amazing. And I knew in that moment we would work together. It wasn't instant after that, but we kept in touch, and she'd probably better at telling you the timeline than I am because I've completely forgotten how long it was. But eventually we did then officially work together and she became my coach, and we've done so on and off ever since. And she's a wonderful, wonderful addition to my life. I absolutely adore her.
There is something I said to Richard because we met her recently and we were talking about that, and I said there is something in her voice and the way that she talk. I don't know, there is a magic when she starts to talk. I don't know what is going on.
But she's got an amazing way of listening. She'll listen to what you've got to say, isn't she? And somehow she just manages to pick out the real vital things that you really need. And that is really, I think, one of the powers of the most incredible coaches. They can listen to a few things. They pick up your sensitivities. They see your little areas of like where you just need to build. They give you the foundation tools. And from those foundation tools, they have a way of just building confidence. And that's one of the most important things I think a mentor can do, is to build the confidence and to give you the belief that you really can do it. And she has an amazing power of doing that and showing you the way, which is incredible.
Yeah, she really does. It is magic. That's the word you used, and it is. It's like magic. And she doesn't tell you what to do. She doesn't spoon feed you answers.
No.
I think the magic is that she somehow digs down into what you already know and brings it out in a way that makes sense and gives you the confidence to go and do something with it. Things that you would probably sit on for years if you were left to your own devices. Maybe you would never do anything about them if you didn't have someone that just sees that in you and helps to bring it to the fore.
Escape to luxury at Hempstead House Hotel and Spa, an elegant country house hotel in Bapchild, near Sittingbourne, Kent. Relax with indulgent spa treatments. Dine in style with exquisite cuisine. Perfect for getaways, weddings and events. Experience luxury in the heart of Kent. Book your stay today.
Be the first to discover Kent's best events all in one free app. What's On in Kent is a new and rapidly growing app where you can find days out information, places to eat, festivals, concerts, markets, and much more around you. Just with few clicks on your phone or computer, you can stay updated with real-time info and explore events across Kent. Don't even think twice. Just download. It's free.
It's definitely something that happens. And I mean, Meri's got a great... it's funny, you mentioned about going to your first networking event. And I remember Meri going to her first networking event. And I remember we were meeting there and she phoned me up and she was in the car and she phoned me up and says, Rich, I'm turning around. I'm not going. And I said, no, you need to come. She said, no, it's not my thing. I'll go back. I'm not coming because honestly, I won't fit in. And she, and literally when I met her there, and she got out the car and she was walking, and she goes, no, I think I'm going to go back. I'm going back, because she get going, and then she came in, and before I know it, I mean, you met a couple of people, didn't you? And you were shaking, but at the same time, very quickly you got into conversation, and then that's it. And sometimes it's just having that little encouragement and a little spark, and once someone just talks to you, and then you start to feel confident. Because networking, I think, is the first time you go any networking event, it's really tough, because what am I going to say? How am I going to start a conversation?
But imagine for me to travel from Manchester to Southampton for a network event.
And then turning around.
That's a cool start, yeah. Obviously the posh hotel makes me to have a think, but yeah, that's totally different. I assume people and place, everything. But I love how you said, I can't say no, so yeah, let's do it. Is it this way that you get in life? Do you like to say yes very often to different challenges, opportunities, or you're a bit more thinking about?
No, I'm definitely a yes person. Yeah, I say yes and then I worry obsessively about it until it's done. But I never give up on anything either. Like, I don't ever quit. It takes a lot for me to say I am done with that thing. I could probably count on the fingers of one hand things that I've given up on in my life because I am. Yeah, so I say yes very quickly, then kick myself because I know I can't back out because that's just not how I'm wired, and then just panic.
Were there any challenges that you just want to share with us that you had on your journey as a obviously entrepreneur and having your business that you had, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, loads of challenges really, and all kind of in different ways. A lot of them initially were my own internal struggles around belief systems and all of that kind of thing. How I overcame them, I wish I had the answer to that because I would be a rich woman, right? Time, I think, just time with that, and just keep going, and eventually you prove to yourself that all the things you thought you couldn't do, you actually can do. And I still have those wobbles now, frequently, all of the time, but I tend to get over them a little bit quicker now because I have proved to myself over and over again that I can do the things I think I can't do. But then, recently I've had quite a few, really. I hit VAT registration earlier this year, should I say. And what was supposed to be a fantastic time for my business was actually a humongous hit to it, because obviously that means 20% goes on your prices. Not everybody that I worked with was VAT registered, so not everybody wanted to stay. So there was some client loss there. I work with a lot of access to work clients, and just before the VAT registration, a lot of them had started to hit their renewal periods, and they've really now cut down. So I'd lost a lot of hours already because of that. I then found out that access to work won't pay VAT. So for every single access to work client, I lost 20% on that income. Wow. That was really tough and emotionally tough as well. Not even just the financial, but you set these benchmarks in your head of, when I get to this, I'm going to feel really successful. I can't believe I'll be VAT registered, and then it hits you like a sledgehammer. And actually I dropped then way below the VAT registration threshold because I lost so much income. And that was really hard. But what I found every single time this happens, and it sounds so cliched, but really where one door closes, another one does open. It's so true. And I know some people listen to that and be like, but I'm yet to see a time where that doesn't happen. And it might not be instant, but it's usually fairly quick, to be fair. And I find the more I believe in that, the quicker it does happen. And things picked up again. And then just recently, I can't really talk about this because it's still ongoing, but there's been some tough decisions I've had to make literally just over this last sort of 10 days, which again was a big financial hit to my business, was a big emotional hit to me personally. And then this last week, I have signed 6 new clients with interest from 2 more, which I've signed more in the last week than I have ever signed in an entire month before. So
You never know.
You just don't.
Yeah. How did you find to become an entrepreneur and to be able to need to take all your decisions? Or because I think this is I never work for myself, and I'm asking the questions from that point of view, because when you work for someone or for a company, you always got someone, up there. But when you are on your own, does it hit at some point, or for you was just came like natural that it's all depend on you?
A little bit of both, I suppose. Like I quite like to be in charge. So that's, I don't like being told what to do either. So it suits me to not have a boss. I always say now I would be unemployable. Any boss who landed me would be like, oh my God, will somebody just sack this woman because she's, we can't manage her. Yeah, she's unbearable. Just get her out. And initially, actually, I probably found it easier. Like the early days decisions didn't feel as big. I really struggle with the decisions that affect other humans. If there's problems within the team, oh God, I hate it. I hate having to bring that up with people. If there's issues with a client and you have to talk to them, payment issues, oh, that's the stuff that really, I find that really difficult, and would quite gladly give that to a higher up manager and be like, can you just deal with that thing? Because I don't want to. That's, the emotional side, because I'm a kind-hearted person. I don't like anybody to feel bad. But sometimes, unfortunately, for the needs of the business, I obviously go about it in the nicest way I possibly can.
Yeah.
But it still makes my skin crawl having to like approach that situation.
It's interesting though, because like obviously being when you're a virtual PA, basically effectively all your clients almost become your boss, because like at the end of the day, they're the ones who are asking you to do different tasks. So instead of having one boss, you end up with maybe 12 or 14 bosses, all sort of like going, oh, could you do this? But of course, because of what you're doing, it's of course I can. That's not a problem. That'd be really easy. I can do that for you straight away.
Maybe the tasks you don't go and see them every day or whatever. You've got your task, do it. Talking about that, are you still working from home or you've got an office? How you do these things?
Yes, I'm still from home. All of my team are freelancers themselves, so they're just contracted as freelancers under me, so they all work from home or Costa or wherever they fancy working from. And yes, I still work from home and or Costa, the library, etc., etc. Yeah. I love the idea of an office, but it's just an unnecessary expense, really, isn't it? Especially when my team aren't local. Like, it's not like if they were all local, I'd happily have just a small office with 2 desks where if they felt like they needed a bit of company, they could pop in one. But that would never happen because we're all so far and wide. So
is your team more in UK based or it's worldwide?
Yeah. No, all UK based, all over the UK, various areas, but we are all UK based. Yeah. I think just coming back to what you're saying as well about like, it's kind of like having multiple bosses. I actually think that's a little bit of a misconception in the industry, I would say. And I think that there's a post in here somewhere that I've been sitting on actually for a few weeks, and you've just reminded me of it. So I'll get that out over the next couple of weeks. I think a lot of that does come from that old fashioned view of a female PA to a man in a grey suit boss.
Okay.
Sorry, that sounds awful. But you know, the type where they would literally be like, go get my laundry done, or go buy my wife's present, or please hide my affair, or that kind of thing. I think it carries a little bit of that, but actually, and this again, I think is where showing up as yourself really pays off, because everyone I work with, we respect each other as equals. You know, they don't see me as somebody to just throw a task at. They respect me as another business brain. They respect me as another businesswoman. That, again, is how I've gone into the strategy side of things and the coaching side of things, because they come to me and say, what do you think about this situation? What should I do with this? How am I going to implement this? So, yeah, it's much more than that. And there's a very genuine mutual respect. And actually, when I have had to get rid of clients, which thankfully doesn't happen very often, it generally has, because the balance has started to tip a little bit into boss and employee territory. And for me, that's not how I run my business. So when that happens, we try to fix it. If it can't be fixed, then it's the end of the road for me, because mutual respect is really, really important.
Lois, would you say, and this is an interesting, Meri and myself had this conversation about a PA, and I said to her that actually I think often the PA is probably doing more of the thinking, more of the strategy work than the CEO. So the CEO's got the title that they walk into the meeting and do all the nice bits, but actually the PA has done all the preparation, all the thought processes, all the strategy work, done all the thinking outside the box. But the CEO actually presents it, or the senior manager or the business leader presents it almost as if it's their idea. And actually the PA is actually doing the real clever stuff.
I think in the employed sense of the word, when you're a PA in a big company, 99% of the time that is true, I would say. Other VAs may have a different experience to me, but again, I think because of the collaborative way I work with my clients, it's a really good mix. Like, they'll come with fantastic ideas. Sometimes it'll be this way. They'll come with a great idea. I will help them execute it and look at the whys and wherefores and how it's going to work. Other times it's the other way around. They come in with all this, like, I
Noise.
wanted to say mumbo jumbo, and I don't mean mumbo jumbo, but yeah, noise, a lot of noise. They just spill it all out, and then I'll have the idea. I'll go bingo, and they go away and execute it. But it tends to be a fairly even balance, I would say now. But in the employed sense, yes, definitely.
Can I ask if it's, of course, if you want to talk about that, because you mentioned your eldest child was homeschooled by you.
Yes.
Is it okay if I ask about that?
Yeah, of course.
A little bit just about, obviously, how did you make, because nowadays people talk much more about that. But when you were doing, how this go, how did you take that decision? And obviously, how did you manage? Because, yeah, I don't think it's an easy task as well.
It's not. It's not an easy task, and it's not for the faint of heart. He started senior school last September. And in the home education was something I toyed with the idea of, because I don't particularly like the way the schooling system is set up, particularly at secondary level. That's no slight on the teachers. I think they do a wonderful job, but I think they're up against an awful lot of red tape now. And so I was already not 100% sold on the idea of him going to secondary school anyway. But we applied, we thought, let's get the applications in and just see what happens. And actually, because we moved house in that time, he got into a school that was miles away from home. So then again, I was like, do we just not send him? Do we home educate? But his best friend got into that school, so he wanted to go and give it a try. So he did. And the change I saw, and don't get me wrong, I'm not that mother who expects her child not to grow up, but my lovely little boy, virtually overnight, just became completely different. Like, he was so rude. Some of the things he was saying, just the anxiety that he was obviously carrying. I was like, what is happening? And even my mum, who absolutely adores him, bearing in mind I said I was a single parent for a while, she was essentially the second parent, so they're very, very close. And even she was saying, what on earth has happened to him? And she'd say it to him sometimes, what's happened to you, Joseph? Why are you behaving this way? And one night he just sat down and told me these stories about things he was seeing at school, about how one child had thrown a chair at the teacher, another one had thrown a pen across the room and said, go fetch, to the teacher. I daren't even imagine what would have happened if I'd done that in my day. And then the line that he said next just punched me in the gut, really. He said, Mummy, I'm finding that I'm having to act like a different person to stop myself getting bullied. I was just like, oh my God. So then we entered very serious conversations about if we were going to home educate or not. This was just before the Christmas holidays. So we'd done one full term, essentially. And he went into school, and by 11 o'clock, I got a phone call. He had been surrounded by 30 kids, punched in the face and dragged to the floor by his backpack. Wow. By the grace of God, for whatever reason, the ringleader had decided to walk away rather than start kicking, because the thought of what might have happened if a mob had started to join in literally makes... I've just got goosebumps now just telling you about it. He did see out his day at school, but as soon as I saw his face after school, I said, you are not going back there again. That's the end of it. And that's where our home education journey began.
So basically, at the moment, he's home educated. Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought that he was back in the time. He was for some time home educated.
No, he's still being home educated.
So it is now.
Yeah.
How are you finding that?
It is difficult in many ways. Like, 12-year-old boys aren't the most motivated to do much of anything, really. So there's a lot of like cracking the whip trying to get him to do things. But when you start looking into it, because you said homeschooling earlier, so homeschooling and home education are two different things.
Oh, okay.
Homeschooling is where you mirror the national curriculum, and you'll very much try and follow what they would be doing in school. Home education is where you lean more into their natural talents and interests. He's incredibly bright, but he is not academic at all. He's very hands-on. When he was 6, he helped me redecorate the entire house, and he did a really good job of it. Like, he's very handsy. He's just really good at that stuff. And so we're doing the home education route rather than the homeschooling route. And he loves it. There's been some trial and error. We've tried lots of different things, and he's really found a good rhythm of stuff that he enjoys doing now. We make sure his maths and English are covered because they're super important. And those are probably still the hardest bits, because they're the ones I have to be like, right, sit down, do this thing. And that can be, that can be quite difficult. But he has got a little allotment out the back of our house. He made his own composter. He's grown all his own herbs. He goes to a farm session once a month. He does a climbing session, a drama session. What else does he do? A PE session. We meet up with other home educated families. So yeah, it's definitely the right thing for him, and the way he learns just
and are
aligns.
you seeing that transition back in behavior to your child, actually?
100%. And this is how I can, with some assurance, say that I'm not the mum who just thinks he's not going to grow up, because he is still a preteen boy. We still get a little bit of back chat, the odd rude word slips out, but in a way I would expect a 12-year-old to be behaving, whereas before it was literally a shock. It was like, woof, what is happening? And actually it seems that he's just able to really be himself, which is lovely. He's not performing for anyone. And a big switch we've seen is how well he handles himself with adults. He is fantastic now around adults, because he spends so much time with them, so he can hold his own in a conversation. He's very polite, very mature. He'll sit, he'll like pick up on a situation, like if we're out and a little old lady can't reach something, he'll be over there and he'll grab it for her. There you go. He very, very intuitive like that. So it's been a really positive thing for him.
One of the things out there, I think, is it doesn't stifle his confidence. One of the things is interesting. We had a conversation with a gentleman last year, and he was talking about children when they're young. They've got this amazing confidence, and they get through get to a certain age, and their confidence retracts a little bit, and then they go to senior school, and they just go within themselves, and like all of a sudden it's like teenagers, like this sort of, they don't talk, and it's almost as if like that ability to communicate, which they had, like you see children at junior school, and you walk past them in the street and say hi, and they go, hello, how are you doing? And they speak back. And then you go to the bus stop of a load of school children, like at senior school, and you walk past them. If you walk past them, it's a great challenge, actually, as an adult. I love doing this. So I walk past them and go, morning, morning, morning. And they just, and like, because none of them are dared and say anything, because they go, what did you say hello to him for? He's a weirdo. Like, because that's always what they think, sort of. And I just think it's really funny, but that's the one thing. And obviously with your boy, he hasn't got that anything to squash him or to reduce him down, which was obviously as soon as he went to school, what straight away happened. And it is remarkable. And to be fair, I mean, often talk about entrepreneurship here, but he's probably like to be way ahead of his peers. And from an entrepreneurial journey, he'll probably do amazing, because if he likes gardening, he might end up becoming a horticulturist. Maybe he'll
start his business at 15.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you should say that.
He already started.
This is where I'm going. Guess what we just started this week? I've always loved the idea of doing. I love stationery. And as I said earlier, I love Disney. And I've always wanted to do downloadable Disney holiday planners. And then he just randomly mentioned it to me. He was like, Mummy, I'd love to start a business. What if we did like Disney holiday plan? I was like, oh my God, like this is what I've always wanted to do. Like, let's do it. So this week, as part of his home education, we started to research doing that. And we're going to just put something together and just like start selling them on Etsy and see what happens. He was like, you need to put it on your LinkedIn because you're a linkfluencer.
Fantastic.
He's right.
Yeah.
But talking about, I am very impressed. Actually, this is one of the things I want to bring kids on this podcast. Almost probably next year we can talk with your son, or we give him a little bit time to start. But I'm inspired. There is one young child, I think it's around Birmingham area. Maybe you've seen him on LinkedIn, Isaac. Isaac is called, isn't it? Where he's doing this food for. Honestly, I'm impressed by this boy. It's just unbelievable to see at this age what they can do, and this is what we have to talk and to share as examples, because it's more than amazing, and they will learn. We had quite a few guests who start with almost crazy things to do back in the time, and they build up one business, another business, third business, and just their mind is working different way. And honestly, I admire them. It's just skills and mindset that not everybody can can have it.
Yeah,
Keep an eye on the
yeah, it's
social
impressive
media.
to see it in action, isn't it? When they, when they are just wired that little bit differently, and they have that get up and go to do it, and the mind is just capable of it. It's a wonderful thing to watch.
It really is.
Awesome. I don't know what to say. I can say that you are, as I will say again, sorry to the listeners, but yeah, you've got awesome energy, and I would love to meet you in real. If you ever coming down nice sunny Kent, please let us know, because yeah, there is something in you, woman, that it's absolutely, yeah. Just although yeah, at the moment this is recording in the evening after a long day for everybody, but yeah, I can think I can fly after finishing this, and I've got all the power. It's awesome. Yeah, keep that way, and whatever comes your way, keep shining and smiling.
Thank you. That's such a lovely compliment. And hopefully we'll sync up at a networking event and not both be shaking.
Yeah, that'd be good.
You'll be okay. And yeah, well, yeah, all the best with all the businesses and whatever comes your way.
Thank you.
Will be interesting to keep an eye on.
And Lois, if people are looking for your services, how can they find you?
Predominantly on LinkedIn at the moment. There's actually a massive rebrand coming with the new website and everything, so I can't give that away yet because I've not announced it. But at the moment, if they look for either my name, Lois Bates-Stubbs, or LBS Virtual Services, they will find me on there, and they can drop me a DM, like some of my stuff. If they like my stuff, I'll DM them anyway, because I'm good like that.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well,
thank you very much for your time, energy, smile, and yeah, all the best for me.
Yeah, we certainly wish you every success. Yeah, thank you, Lois. And thank you for everyone listening to this episode. We hope you really enjoyed listening to Lois's story. There's so much to inspire us there, and a real amazing lady, and thank you. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, we'd really ask you, please do give us a like, and please do subscribe to the channel if you're watching maybe for the first time. There's lots of amazing content to come, and we hope you really enjoy it. We hope you have a great day, and we'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.